After defeating the army of the weak and divided Khwarezm Empire, the Mongols destroyed and looted the cities of Bukhara and Samarkand in Central Asia. However, they faced fierce resistance from Muslims who refused to surrender. The first Islamic resistance against the Mongol invasions was led by an influential Sufi preacher known as Najmuddin al-Kubra, who mobilized students and volunteers and assembled a large resistance army in the city of Khiva. Najmuddin and his students fought a guerrilla war against the Mongols and killed many Mongol soldiers. However, Najmuddin al-Kubra was eventually killed in battle when he was struck by an arrow. After defeating Najmuddin al-Kubra, the Mongols continued to march south and killed everything along the way, until they encountered their second major challenge. This resistance was led by Jalaluddin Khwarezm Shah, who was one of the princes of the fallen Khwarezm Empire. Although the Khwarezm king, known as Muhammad bin Khwarezm Shah, had fled west due to the fear of the large Mongol army, Prince Jalaluddin stayed behind and led a fierce resistance against the Mongols in modern-day Afghanistan. Prince Jalaluddin assembled a massive army and liberated the cities of Kabul and Ghazni from the Mongol army. However, the efforts of Jalaluddin Shah were disrupted when one of his generals defected from his army, as he wanted a larger share of the spoils of war. After this betrayal, Prince Jalaluddin had no choice but to retreat further south into the Indian subcontinent. Prince Jalaluddin was pursued by the large army of Genghis Khan until he managed to escape to India by crossing the Indus River and seeking the protection of the Muslim Delhi Sultanate in India. The Mongols did not want to confront the powerful Delhi Sultanate, and they retreated and turned their attention to Persia and began expanding further west. The Mongol army soon reached the ancient Persian city of Maro, where they killed 700,000 residents. They also began digging the grave of the Seljuk Sultan known as Ahmed Sanjar in search of any gold and money that was buried with him. The Mongols then penetrated further into Iran and sacked and looted many towns and cities. Many famous Persian scholars were killed by the Mongols during this period, such as Attar Nishapuri and Kamaluddin al-Isfahani. However, the Mongols faced huge resistance when they reached the Persian city of Tabriz. The corrupt ruler of the city, known as Uzbek bin Pahlawan, had initially agreed to surrender the city to the Mongols without a fight. Upon hearing about this cowardly decision, a general known as Shamsuddin al-Tughrai revolted against the ruler of Tabriz and overthrew him. Shamsuddin al-Tughrai then declared a jihad against the approaching Mongols and prepared a massive army. This army was able to repel the Mongols and turn them away from the city. This was a humiliating defeat for the Mongols, and they decided not to penetrate further into Persia for the time being. Instead, the Mongols marched towards the Caucasus and invaded modern-day Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia, where they massacred thousands of people. After the death of Genghis Khan, the Mongol general known as Hulagu Khan was appointed as the Mongol commander in charge of completing the conquest of Persia. Hulagu Khan managed to conquer many Persian cities and began to march towards the Abbasid capital of Baghdad. However, guerrilla warfare against the Mongols continued, and many high-ranking Mongol commanders were killed on their way to Baghdad. Despite this fierce resistance, the Mongols eventually made it to the gates of Baghdad. Since the Abbasid army was only a shell of its former self, it was not able to resist the Mongols, and Hulagu Khan eventually entered the city and began killing thousands of people. The streets of Baghdad were filled with blood, and many historical buildings were destroyed by the Mongols, such as the House of Wisdom Library, which was burnt by Hulagu Khan. However, many locals in Baghdad continued to fight the Mongols, such as the preacher known as Jalaluddin Sarsari, who led his students in guerrilla attacks against the Mongols and managed to kill a high-ranking Mongol commander. However, these pockets of resistance were not enough to stop the Mongols, who eventually established full control over Baghdad and all of Iraq. After taking control of Iraq, the Mongols also killed many influential scholars such as Muhyiddin ibn Zillaq and Yusuf ibn Abdul Rahman ibn Jawzi, who was a teacher at the Mustansiriya school. During this period, many locals conducted heroic acts which saved many lives. For example, Sayyid ibn Taus, who was an influential preacher in Baghdad, managed to save hundreds of lives by sheltering people from Hulagu Khan. Another humanitarian during this period was the scholar known as Shamsuddin al-Kufi, who purchased dozens of captive children from the Mongols and personally raised them and took care of them. After establishing control over Iraq, the Mongols soon turned their attention to the region of Syria, which was ruled by the Ayyubid dynasty. After hearing the horrific news of the Mongol massacres in Baghdad, most of the Ayyubid princes surrendered to the Mongols, except for Prince Muhammad al-Ayyubi, who refused to surrender. Muhammad al-Ayyubi was a prince who controlled a large region that extended from eastern Anatolia to northern Syria, and he resisted the Mongol army for 18 months, preventing them from penetrating further into Syria. After losing hundreds of soldiers, the army of Hulagu Khan finally defeated Muhammad al-Ayyubi. After crushing the resistance of Muhammad al-Ayyubi, the Mongols turned their attention to the historic city of Damascus. However, their ambitions to conquer Damascus were interrupted when the Mongol king known as Möngke Khan passed away, and Hulagu Khan was called to the Mongol capital in order to take part in the process to elect the next Mongol king. As a result, Mongol expansion into the Muslim world was stopped temporarily. However, a few years later, the Mongols resumed their campaign to expand further west. Hulagu Khan returned to Syria and confronted the new powerful Muslim empire known as the Mamluk dynasty, which had taken control of Egypt, Syria, and Hijaz. The Mamluks were able to defeat Hulagu Khan and put an end to Mongol expansion when the Mamluk Sultan known as Saifuddin Qutuz defeated the Mongols at the Battle of Ain Jalut. Saifuddin was a brave Muslim leader who called on Muslims not to fear the Mongols. He stated, "The faith of a believer is a strike that paralyzes the belly of every polytheist and kills every stubborn tyrant. Allah is never unjust to His servants." Hulagu Khan tried to intimidate Saifuddin and sent him a letter calling on him to surrender in order to save his state from being destroyed like Baghdad. However, Saifuddin was not intimidated and replied to Hulagu Khan in the following letter: "If we disobey you, that is obedience to Allah. If we kill you, we have done a good deed. And if we are killed, then we go to paradise." The Mongol and Mamluk armies eventually collided, and the Mongols faced a humiliating defeat, which ended their expansion into the Muslim world. In the centuries that followed, the Mongols embraced the religion of Islam thanks to the efforts of Muslim preachers such as Saifuddin Bokharzi, and various Muslim states emerged in Persia, Central Asia, and Iraq after the collapse of the Mongol Empire.